Hello, welcome everyone. This is the second of our 2026 Northeast SARE Farmer Grant program. I got other people filing into the waiting room, so I need to disable it. There we go. So people should be able to come right in. Awesome. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second of our 2026 Northeast SARE Farmer Grant Q&A sessions. I'm Vander Gack, Northeast SARE's communications person. This is really a great way for us to all talk about the Farmer Grant proposal process. And you can ask any questions that you have. We can have you throughout the process. You can drop them into the chat. You can raise your hand. I'm going to hand it over to Candice Huber, our grant administrator here in just a moment. It's going to give a little presentation, kind of an overview of the program. And then after that, we will start working our way through the chat log. We will start working our way through people who have raised their hands. I want to make a quick shout out for projects.sare.org. That is our projects database, our grant management system. It is both the place where you will submit your proposal when it is ready, and it is the place that you can use to search for other grant projects that have taken place. So you can search by state, you can search by commodity, practice, basically get a feel for what other people might have done, and then you can kind of use that to help shape your own grant proposal. And I'm going to launch a welcome poll here in a moment, and I'm going to hand it over to you now, Candice.
Thanks, Vander. For some reason I can't get my chat to show up. So just if you could make sure to just watch that for anything important, especially questions. So welcome everyone. This is our lunchtime question and answer session for Farmer Grants. And I'm Candice Huber, and I manage the Farmer Grant and Partnership Grant programs for Northeast SARE. As you all know, we're currently accepting proposals for the Farmer Grant program until December 9th. So first I'm going to explain the basics of the Farmer Grant program. Let's see. I want to make sure let me get rid of the poll. Let's see. Can you all see the PowerPoint presentation, and is it big enough? Great. Excellent. We also have with us today Emma Marks. She's our grant program specialist. She's going to be helping out, popping things into the chat. If my internet goes down, she will step in, as she has had to before. It's snowing here now, and a little bit icy out there too, so you never know what's going to happen. Let's see. So as I said, I'm going to start with just some of the basics about the program. If you were here last week, you would have seen all this, and that should actually say Northeast SARE 2026 Farm Grant call for proposals. And move on to the next slide. SARE stands for Sustainable Agriculture, Research and Education. Let's see. And it's a federally funded program through the USDA, National Institute of Food and Agriculture. That's housed at the University of Vermont. There are 4 regions for SARE, and we're the Northeast region serving these 12 states and the District of Columbia. The Farmer Grant program is one of 6 competitive programs that we have. We have some other programs that have just released their call for proposals, our larger grant programs. So if you know of anybody who's been waiting for those, or if that's something that interests you, you can go to our website and check out those. But the first criteria for the Farmer Grant program is that you have to be working in the Northeast region. When we also have the Partnership Grant program, it's very similar to the Farmer Grant program, but the applicant is not the farmer. It's someone who works with farmers. So if you're listening and you're not a farmer, but you want to work with one, then the Partnership Grant program would be the one for you. And the deadline for that, it will be next April. And you can find out more about that on our website as well. So these are the basics of the Farmer Grant program. Farmer grants are for commercial producers who have an innovative idea they want to test. The projects should seek new knowledge that other farmers can use and address questions that improve the sustainability of farms. Advisor must be involved. The maximum amount of funds you can request is
looking to be answered soon
$30,000,
also.
and you will need to put together a detailed, realistic budget. And it's important to note that funds are paid for on a reimbursement basis. So you or your farm needs to be able to manage the expenses up front. Projects typically run from 1 to 2 years, but the absolute maximum is 3 years. Applicants may only submit one proposal per program per year. The deadline is December 9th at 5 p.m. and proposals are submitted online. And all the instructions for writing and submitting your proposal is in the call for proposals, which is really, really important. Emma, if you could pop that in the chat. Sorry, I can't see my chat for some reason, but that it's really important that you start by reading that call for proposals. It probably would answer all your questions. So the main goal of SARE programs is to help other farmers in the region. So for your proposal to be competitive, you want to demonstrate that your project will benefit sustainable agriculture. And you can use our outcome statement to help address that, which is Northeast agricultural communities honor the holistic connection among land, water, air, and all living beings. Agriculture in the Northeast is sustainable so that all farmers and farm employees can steward resources to ensure sustainability, resilience, economic viability, and a high quality of life. Projects should also address SARE's legislative priorities, and these are also in the call for proposals. That's soil health, conservation of natural resources, water quality, farm health and safety and quality of life, livestock health, and farm labor. And projects having a significant impact or impression on the farmers and farming communities is also critical. Impact can be economic, social, environmental. For example, how does the research support farmer livelihoods? How does the research build strong communities? How does the research improve crop production? That sort of thing. And also for impact, replicability is really important. Replicability is the ability of another farmer or farming community to obtain similar results when applying the same method or approach. In other words, another farmer can utilize the results of the research to benefit their own farming practices or behavior. Innovation. Innovation is defined as the development or adoption of new concepts or ideas and the successful exploration of the new ideas. Within the scope of Northeast SARE, examples of innovation can include things like the introduction of a new behavior or practice, one which the farmers are not yet familiar. And now this could be a behavior or a practice that is common in one area of the region, but not in the other area of the region. So since it's new to that audience of farmers, it would be innovative. The opening of a new market that's not been previously entered could be innovative. A new source of materials or goods, again, irrespective of whether it's already exists or whether it's the first to be created, and improved structure or capacity of the farm. So these are all just examples of innovation. It's important to really try to explain how your project is going to be innovative. Now, before I start taking questions, I just want to address eligibility because that's usually the first question people ask. Am I eligible? In order to be eligible, you not only need to be in the Northeast region, but you need to qualify as a farmer. You can be a farm owner or an employee of a farm. If you're a farm employee, there is a form you'll need to submit that shows the farm owner approves of the project, and because the contract would be with the farm owner as the finances would go through the farm. If you're a farmer in a nonprofit organization, same thing, but you'll need approval from the authorized official for that organization. So the farm must have the capacity to manage the grant, as I said before. Well, maybe I actually didn't say it yet, but the funds are provided on a reimbursement basis. So the farm needs to be able to pay for expenses up front. And then you submit an invoice to SARE, and it can take up to 30 days to get payment. So just to keep that in mind. This grant, so that we do have the definition of a farm. We accept all types and scales of farms. So you could be farming on a large or small scale with organic conventional practices, urban or rural, full or part-time. But the farm that you own or work on must be a commercial operation with an established farm income of at least $1,000 per year. And we use the USDA definition of a farm, any place from which $1,000 or more of agricultural products were produced and sold or normally would have been sold during the census year. Now, the normally would have been sold doesn't apply to if your farm was up and running, that's what you would get. It just means that in a normal year, you would have made $1,000, but things do come up. You could experience low sales in a particular year due to bad weather, disease, changes in marketing strategies, or any other factor. So that's why that clause is in there. Normally would have been sold. But on our website, we do have a document that explains this further, and it also provides examples of what qualifies and what does not. You don't need to show us your profit or your sales, any record of that. We don't require evidence or information about your tax status. We take your word for it when you submit your application. You're basically signing that you meet the definition of a farm. So if you have any question about whether you're eligible, feel free to contact me directly and we can discuss it. Now, I do have more I can talk about, tons more. But at this point, I'd like to hear what questions you have. So you can put your questions in the chat. You can also raise your hand. And if I'm just not seeing you, please just speak right up. I'm going to try again to get the chat. Oh, there it is. And do we have any questions so far? Can a farmer cooperative apply, or do they need to select a farmer member to apply? You do need to select a farmer member to apply. If the cooperative is an entity that the finances can run through and that wants to be, the actual award, the entity we would contract with, then the farmer that's applying could be, would basically need to be an employee of that cooperative. So I don't know how that's structured, how that's set up. But we do need one farmer to apply, and typically the award would go through that farmer's farm. But we certainly could work with other farmers, list other farmers as collaborators. We do like to see collaboration. Reviewers really like to see collaboration because it brings in so many different perspectives into a project. I see another question. Are we allowed to use leased land? And if so, what is needed for that signed lease copy? We do not need a signed lease copy. If you are working off of leased land, you should describe that in your proposal under project team, where you're just talking about your experience and knowledge and resources. What needs to be is you as a farmer need to have a farm business. So if you have, stick farm, and I'm saying stick because I'm looking out and all the trees are bare. Stick farm, and you lease some land and you have a certain amount of income every year from the produce you're growing on that land, then that's your farm business, is stick farm. Where you grow, what you do is not important for your eligibility, as long as it's in the Northeast region. But reviewers do want to be sure that you will have what you need for the success of the project. So if it's leased land, reviewers will want to be sure that you'll be having that lease through the end of the project if the land is important for the project work. Are we allowed to, let's see. What happens if your research project does not prove that your hypothesis is true? I had to scroll down so I can see the rest of that. There we go. What happens if the new practice turns out not to be something we would recommend to anyone else because it wasn't effective? So part of the projects, all the projects require an outreach component where you share your results with other farmers or the farm community, agricultural service providers, etc. If your project results are not successful, or not successful is not the right word, but if you don't feel that it's a recommendation to give, that's fine. You might need to adjust your outreach. But as far as we're concerned, a lot of times projects fail, and that's fine, because that's adds to the bank of knowledge for that topic. And it's really great for other farmers to hear about how it didn't work, because that'll help them make decisions like, oh, well, I'm not going to try that, or these are the challenges they had with this, so I better be prepared for that. So it's still valuable information for other farmers. So that's what this is all about. It gives you a chance to try something new, and we'll take the financial risk for that. Because a lot of farmers, farmers are amazing in that they come upon problems and they're always thinking about ways to fix them. They've always got ideas, really, really great ideas, but they don't have the time or the money to work on it. So that's our hope with this grant program, is to allow farmers to have the opportunity to try new ideas that they really wouldn't be able to. Let's see, how is the $1,000 in sales verified? How's, for startups in their first year? Okay, so startups in their first year of operation, if you have had your first year in 2025, so $1,000 or more is for the year prior to the deadline. So December 9th, 2024 to December 9th, 2025, if you had $1,000 in sales, you're eligible for a farmer grant. If you have not, you're still starting up, but you plan to next year, you're going to have to wait a year. You're not eligible. We do not require any verification. We trust you. You're signing off that you meet the definition of a farm. So we don't require any verification, any income statements or tax statements or anything like that. Do we email our proposals to you? No. Proposals are submitted online at projects.sare.org in what we call our grants management system. And it's really important that you do submit it online by the deadline, December 9th at 5 p.m., because it's all in the system. So at 5 p.m., it's done. It's closed. So on that note, while I'm here, I just want to recommend that you start early, get your proposal submitted early, just in case there's some sort of technical difficulty at the end. We advise that you don't wait. Plus, we can't guarantee that we'll be available to help you at 4:45 on December 9th, because there's going to be a lot of people submitting. A lot of people wait till that time to submit. So please try to do that early. And if you need any accommodation, if there's some reason you can't use the computer to submit your proposal, please contact us. Thanks, Emma, I guess I should have scrolled down. To confirm, you said if the farmer was also an employee, the grant funds could be managed by the cooperative. In that case, would the farmer apply as a farm employee and complete the grant commitment form? Yes. Yes. So the farmer would essentially be a farm employee of the cooperative, and would need to have a grant commitment form signed by an authorized official from the cooperative. And then the contract would be with the cooperative, and the farmer would be the project leader. I hope that helps. It's a little confusing, but yeah, let me know if you need further clarification on that.
And this one we didn't get to yet is there a labor cost cap?
No, there is not a labor cost cap. So if you have a project that is basically all labor, sometimes you do, sometimes it doesn't require any materials. It's just all labor, or, using things that you already have. So you don't need anything. But yes, so there is no labor cap. We do, reviewers will be looking at the budget to make sure that you have everything you need. So if you have any other resources, or any other source of funding that's going towards the project, make sure to explain that in your proposal, So reviewers won't be wondering, well, they're just asking for labor. How are they going to get the seeds and the fertilizer and or whatever? So just important to explain it if you don't if the project requires other things besides labor, make sure you explain it in the proposal how you're going to be obtaining those. Would being awarded this grant make you ineligible for SARE grants in other categories? No. One program per year, or one proposal per program per year. So you can be awarded multiple proposals, but only one from each program. Repeat question. So the technical consultant. So we have a technical advisor that's required for your project. We also have technical assistance that's available through SARE. You can feel free to, there's a form listed in the call for proposals where you can apply for that. And today is the deadline for applying for technical assistance because we need the time to be able to do that. So a technical consultant, I'm assuming, is your technical advisor or any other collaborator that is helping you on the project. And you can have multiple, like I said, multiple collaborators, so multiple consultants. For instance, if you have somebody who's helping you with, who's your technical advisor on the project, but they don't have specific expertise in pest identification, so you need somebody else to come in. That's the kind of thing you can certainly do, and you can pay the people. And we don't have any guidance on rates. It would be up to them what they usually charge. And we also do encourage you, if you're working with any other farmers at all in your project, whether it's as part of the research or if they're collaborating in any other way, we encourage you to budget for some funds to pay them, because farmers' time, we feel, is really, really valuable, and reviewers are always looking to make sure that farmers are compensated. Can they charge or commercial rates, or do they need to charge labor and indirect? So indirect is kind of another thing. So indirect, for those who don't know, are facilities and administration charges for a project. So for instance, UVM charges a portion of the total amount to be able to manage the project, pay for all the administration that goes into running the program, to paying the bills, the overhead for phone, electricity, all that stuff. So they get a certain amount, and that's called indirect. Now, so if a technical consultant is working through another organization, like an institution like a land grant university, it may need to, and they want you to just pay the university, you would need to create a subaward. And there's a section in the budget category for subawards. And that's where you would, they would provide a budget for that subaward. And then the total amount of the subaward would go into your project. On their budget, they could, if it's coming from the institution needs to have a federally negotiated rate in order to be able to charge indirect. So that's why it's usually institutions, bigger institutions, sometimes smaller nonprofits. It's not something individual farmers or farm businesses would be able to do. So if you need more information about indirect, I don't want to confuse everybody. I probably already have, but just feel free to contact me and we can talk about it more. But typically, as a farmer with your farm, or if you have just a small business, you would know if you don't have a federally negotiated rate, it's not something you would need to worry about. Does a project that solely involves remediating runoff from livestock but not direct involvement with livestock still qualify as a livestock research project? No, if I'm understanding correctly, but if you are going to be working with the animals in any way, with feeding them their feed, doing any testing on their nutrition, or of course any direct involvement like slaughtering or anything, that would be a livestock research project. But if you're looking at erosion and the animals, if you're measuring the amount of use or compaction or whatever the animals are doing on a certain area, you're actually are going to be counting the animals, then that would be a livestock project. So if you're going to be using the animals in any way in your research, then it would be a livestock research project. And better, I think, in that case, to be safer rather than not, because we will look at it and decide if it needs any, we'll have actually the UVM vet will look at it and decide if it's, as far as animal welfare goes, if it needs any adjustment. But if you're just measuring erosion on a field that has had animals in the past and you want to put animals on them in the future, then that would not be a livestock research project. I think that's where you were getting as far as a livestock research project goes. Again, if that doesn't answer your question, please, Patrick, contact me and we can discuss it further. How small can each test plot be? So this is an interesting question. You should work with your technical advisor to decide, to figure out, because that varies for each, whatever the crop is and or what you're looking at. So talk with your technical advisor, and if they are unable to help you, I would suggest finding somebody with expertise in what you're looking at to be able to tell you what would be a valid sample size, because you're going to do this project. You want to make sure that you do it right so that the results will be valid. So I highly recommend that you find, maybe you might need somebody in statistics to be able to help you with your sample size or plot size. Now, how large can each test plot be? Again, you might want to do the same thing, because sometimes people ask for enough to test 20 acres of something, and the reviewers will be like, well, they don't really need to do this, to get these results, they don't need to use 20 acres, but the applicant is just looking to be able to apply this to their whole farm or something. So reviewers will look at that and be like, you don't really need to do it on so much land. That's a lot of extra expense. So keep that in mind also. It should be appropriate for the project that you are doing, this sample size. Yep, thanks, Emma, for Emma put in the chat how to conduct research on your farm, which is a SARE publication. That is really helpful if you're new to research, and how to design your project and things you want to think about and all that. But and I also, again, really advise you to use your technical advisor for that sort of thing, because that's why they should be there. Can you use grant funds to pay for materials for building a fence around a growing plot? You can. We do not typically do not allow permanent structures, but if it's a temporary fence of some sort, we can allow, that would be allowable. Sometimes there's circumstances in a project where it needs to be a permanent structure, but it's not something that you would ordinarily do. Then we would have to look at that. That could be a gray area. We'd look at the individual case. So again, if you have questions, contact me. We already addressed that about making, if one application per program, one award per program per year, and for the smaller grants it's just one application, so you have to choose which project you really want to work on and focus on applying for that project. Can the technical advisor be paid from the grant? Yes, as we spoke, they would be go under consultants. Thanks, Emma. Does the technical advisor need to be a professor, or can they be another farmer? 13 to 14. Let me just, I do have some slides for this sort of thing. So a technical advisor, the role of the technical advisor is to provide support to you as an expert in the topic. that they could help you redesign your project. They could review your proposal before you submit it to make sure that, you know, you're explaining things or you don't have holes or it all makes sense. They can assist with outreach. Typically, they would help troubleshoot issues that come up during your project. But the technical advisor can be pretty much anybody who has expertise in your topic. It can be an extension or university specialist. It could be a private consultant. It could be a veterinarian. It could be a state agriculture person. It could be a consultant or a company representative, or just another experienced farmer that you know who's had a lot of experience and in what you're looking at. So the only thing is we just request that it's not somebody from your same farm, because we do like reviewers do want to see that a technical advisor is involved who will bring in another perspective. That's really important to be able to make sure that you're getting a bigger picture. It's a project that involves, oh, I already did that. An expense in terms of running above ground water line and mobile watering system to facilitate grazing. Would that fall under equipment, capital expense? It depends on the project. If the irrigation is, or it's not irrigation, it's watering, is necessary for the project in that, and unique to the project in that you wouldn't use it if you weren't doing the project, then it would fall under equipment. If it's something that you could use after the project is done, even if the project is not successful, then you would have to do it on a prorated basis. And that's explained in our call for proposals under Appendix C. If my experiment involves testing the efficacy of a major improvement to a high tunnel, is that a capital expense? The cost of the improvement, not the cost of the cost of the improvement could be covered. Again, it depends on exactly what you're doing, but it sounds like you're going to test something that could really improve the high tunnel. I'm not sure what that would be, but so that would be an allowable expense. Are there specific format requirements for qualitative and quantitative impact documentation? No, there are not specific format requirements. That's between you and your technical advisor, the best way to assess that. Now, we will be looking in your project. If you're awarded, you'll be needing to submit reports, progress reports yearly, and then at the end, a final report. And we will want to see what you've used for qualitative and quantitative impact documentation, but there's no specific format required. If a project requests closer to $30,000, what sort of impact would the reviewers look for compared to a smaller request? For example, would a project closer to the cap need to be regional? No. Smaller requests, first of all, I just want to say smaller requests are just as competitive as larger requests. There's no, reviewers are looking at the project and looking to see that the budget is appropriate for the work in the project. The impact, the reviewers do look at the impact, but well, what you're asking is, should a $30,000 project have more impact than a $10,000 project? Now, reviewers are just looking for impact as much as possible from each project, but so the impact is looked at, and you know, reviewers will look, you know, a $30,000 project. When we first moved to $30,000 from $15,000, it was so that people could have more collaborators, reach a larger region, do more replications, that sort of thing. Maybe incorporate statistics, something, you know, be a little more hefty. But $30,000 is not a lot of money these days. So it depends on the work. And so there is no, reviewers aren't looking at the total dollar amount as any sort of criteria. I hope that helps. In other SARE requirements, I've seen any IP generated from the project belongs to the Regents University host. What's IP?
Intellectual property.
Intellectual property, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. If SARE has funded that development of that intellectual property, it does need to it needs to be in the public domain. I don't know if it belongs, I don't think it belongs to the university or the institution, but it will be in the public domain through our reporting system. So if there's something that you want to do that you don't want to share, like for instance, if you are developing a piece of equipment to, I don't know, sort seeds or something, then the development of that piece of equipment, the designs would be public domain. If you have already developed that piece of equipment, but you want to test it to see how it works, then you do not need to share the design. You just need to share the results of your testing. So we used to always use the muffin example, whereas if you're developing the recipe for the muffins, then that recipe would be public domain, would have to be provided in your project report. But if you're just testing which muffins taste better, then you don't need to provide the recipe. I hope that helps. Okay, so somebody asked about your remark of technical advisor deadline was today. Again, I just want to reiterate technical advisor, and I apologize for this terminology being so close. We haven't figured out how to make it more separate, but technical advisor is the person that you need to find yourself who will help you with your project, who will provide all these things that we've talked about for the technical advisor. Now, if you want technical assistance, which is something that we offer, Northeast SARE offers to applicants to help you develop your proposal, submit your proposal, anything you might need, then that is due today to apply for that so that we can set you up with somebody and you can work on it. But it's not the same as your technical advisor. That's a different role. The technical advisor will stick with you throughout the project. The technical assistance is just to get your proposal developed and into the application system. Let's see. If I'm missing anything, let me know. Oh, now I got to scroll all the way down. I know Emma's answering a lot of these in the chat.
We've got a hand from Sean.
Oh, Sean, go ahead.
Hello, how you doing? So my question is, my farm that I'm working on, I'm an employee. They have previously received a grant last year. When submitting an application for a proposal, do I need to create a new account or would I use their account?
You should create your own account.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
If you need to reference that proposal, make sure you do so in the in your proposal. If you need to reference the previous one, make sure to explain that.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, and I see after the technical assistance, technical advisor conversation, Emma added, you have until the proposal due date, December 9th, to add your technical advisor to your application. This is true. However, really that should be the first thing that you do is you find your technical advisor, and they will need to supply a letter of commitment that explains their role, their expertise, their background and all that, but specifically their role in the project. So you need time to get that from them and everything. So make sure you don't wait until the 9th to do that. Can a new tool, special kind of seeder fertilizer applicator be project related, or is that a capital? Nope, a new tool like that would be project related material for sure. That should be fine. Yep, okay. In an experiment that involves evaluating crop productivity, would the cost of seeds, bulbs, other plants, fertilizer, etc., be an allowable operating expense, even if I would be growing those same crops in the same field without the experiment? No. So if this is if these are things that you were going to buy anyway, and then like because you're going to be selling the produce afterwards, even if you weren't doing the project, then we can't. That's called normal operating expense for you. So we can't fund any of that. But if you're going to be adding, like maybe you're going to use one block of it for this trial, and you don't, it could or could not. Maybe the produce won't be any good to sell because maybe it won't work. We would pay for that block then, if it's above and beyond what you would normally do, or if it's changing what you would normally do. I hope that explains it. But the key thing is we can't pay for anything that would be normal operating costs, whether it's materials, labor, supplies. Does the outreach portion take place during the project or afterwards? Very good question. It should take place during the project. And then we want you to report on it in your final report. So make sure you do think that through, allow enough time on your project, because you're going to be asked the start date and the end date of your project. I'll look at it, like if your project is awarded, we can work on changing the end date if we need to. If you think, if we talk about it and you might need a little more time, that's not a problem. But yes, your outreach does need to be included in the grant timeline. Can this grant apply to outreach sharing something we have already learned, or does it have to be something new we research? That's an excellent question. It's typically both, actually. Outreach for a project sometimes is just educating people about the topic. Like if you're going to be, if you're doing cover crops, a project with cover crops, you could do outreach before your project is finished, and you could go to a conference and you could show people what you're working on, but you could also use that as an opportunity to provide people with information about the topic, just, the benefits of cover cropping and how you do it and stuff like that. So sharing some knowledge that you already have is certainly encouraged as outreach. I think that's the last question. Is there anything else? Am I missing something? Somebody? We have about 15 minutes left, and I could talk about a couple of things. I think what I'll do is I'll just go to the next slide here. That's technical assistance. So basically how to get started with your project. You want to work for with the technical advisor. So you want to find your technical advisor. Well, first thing is you have an idea and you're really thinking about it, and you really want to test this, and you understand the challenge that it's addressing. Like you have an idea and you know why you have that idea, because you need to, in your proposal, you need to explain what's the need for this project. Why is it important? So you've got your idea, you find a technical advisor who can help you flesh out your idea, design the experiment, write the proposal. Like I said in the beginning, one of the very first things also to do is read the call for proposals. It has tons of information in it. It's a large document, but it's really got everything you need to be able to apply for this grant program. You really want to be clear about your objectives and your experimental design, even if it's not a quantitative project or like applied research. If it's maybe it's education or case studies, whatever you're doing, you really want to be clear about how you're addressing your objectives. So you have your objectives, what you want to accomplish, what you think this project can do, and then your experimental design needs to align with that.
Hey,
and
mommy.
reviewers are going to be looking to see
All
that
right, how are you?
that the methods and materials, in other words, the experimental design, will get you to your objectives. You want to really be realistic about the costs involved. It seems like we ask for a lot of detail, and maybe it's nitpicky, but we do want you to look at realistic prices, for current prices. And you're going to need to identify what the expense is, why you need it, and then the quantity and price for each unit of that expense. And the reason why we do that is so that you're all set. Because if you get into the middle of your project and you're like, oh, I didn't realize that I was going to need this, that, and the other thing, or I didn't think of, then, you know, that could sideline your whole project. So we go through all this with the detailed proposal and the budget, and also that you basically will be set up for success by the time your project comes around. You'll be able to use it kind of as a roadmap or like a recipe to be able to do your project. I had one farmer once who said, I love the grant because sometimes everything on the farm is just happening so fast, and I just don't know what to do when, which direction to go, but I always know in my farmer grant where I'm at, and I can just look up the proposal and see what do I need to do next. And then it kind of, he was saying how it helped him just organize his workload. He learned a lot from that.
We just
yeah.
got another question that I thought was really interesting. Does the goal of the farm activity that we would be testing have to be produce sales in the farm community, or can it be feeding a family and promoting more self-reliant living?
Does the goal of the farm activity that we would be testing? Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So farmer grant projects need to be applicable to other farmers in the Northeast region. And the it can't be, reviewers would not look at a project that would just improve your own farm. I don't think that's what you're asking here, but I'm just going to say they wouldn't look favorably on a project that's just going to help your farm and not anybody else's. I understand what you're saying, though. If your project is something that's going to result in the farmer being able to be more, I'm not sure if the farmer or consumers also, for people to be, maybe it's a community that you're looking to make more self-reliant rather than just an individual family. That's all definitely a valid project, would be eligible. The topic would be eligible. You would need to explain how that can help agriculture be more sustainable, looking at those legislative priorities and our outcome statement. Try to tie it into that. And I would also recommend maybe case studies or something. There's got to be some way for other communities to be able to apply the results of your project to be maybe to make themselves more self-reliant. I hope that helps. Yeah, the activity tested would be replicable, but the goal might not be to make money, but create sustainable food systems. Exactly. Very good. Yeah.
Candice, can I add one piece to that?
Yep.
So to be eligible, you have to meet our definition of a farm, which we shared. And that doesn't mean that you have to sell $1,000 worth of produce, but you have to produce that. And like maybe your giving it away or donating it to a food bank. You just need to prove that it's like more than a home garden, because home gardens are really, really valuable, but they are outside of the scope of Northeast SARE's legislation.
And again, we don't ask for that proof. We trust you, but you should have it documented somewhere. Like essentially, you should be claiming those donations on your taxes if you're using it to qualify as for your SARE Farmer Grant eligibility. Common mistakes on applications. I'm just going to bring up this slide. Common mistakes, I would say, are the most common mistake is people just not taking the time to think through the project completely, and they're not explaining how it's valuable to the farm community in general. They're looking more for just helping their own farm. You don't want to do that. There are some tips for submitting a strong proposal. So first thing, as I said, you want to consider the match between SARE and you. So again, if it's just for your benefit, your own farm, it's probably not a good match. Read the call for proposals. There's a lot of details in there that if you're answering the questions as we've asked, it should be a strong, well-written proposal. Start early. Some people have reported it could take up to 40 hours to do this, and that includes, finding your technical advisor, contacting them, the back and forth to get letters from collaborators, all that stuff. So make sure you allow yourself plenty of time. We do, in the proposal, we provide a link to a Word doc that where you can answer the questions. There's word counts for each of the questions, most of the questions. And so you can go and use that Word doc and prepare your proposal, pass it around to other people who you want to look at it. We recommend that you, have some peers or at least your technical advisor review the proposal before you submit it. And then you can just simply copy and paste the sections into the proposal. Be aware though of that word count, because if you go over the word count in the online system, it'll just cut off your answer at a certain point. So just be careful of that. Sean, I'll be with you in just 1 second. I'm just going to finish up these points. Another thing about for reviewers, it's really helpful if you keep your writing really clear and straightforward. Don't use any jargon. If you have acronyms, make sure you, the first time you use them, make sure that you've written it out so reviewers know what you're talking about. Don't assume that they have expertise in the topic that you're in. They'll all have broad agricultural experience, but they need to see from the proposal what's going on, what the situation is and why it's important and what you're going to do. And don't make any assumptions that they'll know, how to do genetic testing or whatever. So you want to make sure that you explain everything. And you don't want to send people to links. Don't want to send the reviewers to links because they won't be looking. Don't have time to click on all the links that people provide. Develop a realistic budget, which we talked about, and remember the attachments. Remember them early enough so that they'll be ready to be submitted by the deadline. Because if they aren't submitted with the proposal, your proposal will not be able to move forward for review. Okay, Sean.
Hello, you can hear me all right?
Yes.
So I'm going to use your analogy of muffins, right? So if I'm designing something, right, or creating a recipe for muffins, and during the process of creating the recipe, I realize maybe I want to use a different type of flour. How would I set up my budget to accommodate for changes in cost, either more or less, right? So maybe I create a budget, but I actually realize I can make it much cheaper. And maybe this is a question for the technical assistant rather than here.
Nope, that's a great question, Sean. Thanks for asking that. So your budget that you provide shows that you have done the research and you've thought it through and the whole project. If you want to build in being able to change something, I'm not sure how you would do that, but I would make sure that you cover all of your costs, like everything that unless it's gonna be over $30,000, in which case you can pick and choose what you want to put in your budget. But if when the time comes, you're working on it and you're like, oh, this white flour is not what I need for these muffins. I need to use something better or different. You can go ahead and change that. The total amount of your award can't change. So if you're requesting $25,000 worth of, in your budget, that's the total amount. You can't get more than that. If you request $30,000, that's your total amount. So whatever you request with your proposal, that's going to be your total amount. But there is flexibility in the budget as you go through if you need to change something up, or if the price goes up, which happens a lot. So that's why I would make sure that you're asking for everything that you think that you could need for that project, to make sure that you have some flexibility, because usually there's some things that you don't need, end up not needing, but some things you need more of. We can always adjust that later on. If it's a significant amount, you would just need to run it by me for approval, but it's never a problem to especially if you have changes. And if in your muffins, maybe you want to put that right into the project design. We're going to try 3 different flours. We're not sure which they are, but these flours cost this amount, and that's what we're going to base the pricing on. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. So it would kind of be better to not overestimate a budget, but go higher. You can always come down, but you can't get more funding if things increase.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And
great.
I mean, realistically, prices probably,
Yeah.
Fortunately, with these projects, they're short enough that we're hoping, it's not going to be too drastic over the course of the project. But in a year, things could, like if your project's a 2-year project, you're not going to be making purchases for another year, prices really could change. So yes,
right.
Yes, ask for
Great.
the maximum amount that you will need.
Thank you.
I did see the Emma put in the chat about where you can find the Word doc that has it seems like old questions keep popping back up for me. Anyway, I think she put in the account that the Word doc, can you attach photos that help show the project? Yes. Yeah. Those can be inserted right into the submission system. There's a media tab. I think Emma responded to all the other questions. I just wanted to mention about the word counts. The word counts are also listed in the online system, so you'll see the word count there as well, but it's also in that Word document that you can use to prepare your proposal. Can part of the project include researching the viability of creating a co-op? Sure. Yep. Yeah. Looks like we're coming to the end of our hour. I really appreciate some great questions today. We are going to be sharing the recording of this session, and we'll post a list of the questions and their answers, so maybe make and categorize them, hopefully make it a little easier for you to find things, go back if you want to go back to something that we discussed today. Again, I am available for help anytime you need to. There we go. If you have questions about any of this at all, please contact me. You can email me or you can call me. Typically email's the best, and then I can set up a time with you to talk on the phone if we need to. And also don't forget about the technical assistance. Today's the deadline for that if you want to use that resource. Otherwise, I think that's it. Vander, did I miss any housekeeping sort of stuff, or? Nope. Good. Great. Well, thank you everyone so much for coming. It's all these questions are so great. Always gets me thinking, and I get really excited to hear to be seeing all of the proposals that you're going to be submitting and being able to read about all the exciting things that people are thinking about. So again, my information is also in that call for proposals, so that you can always find my contact information, and feel free to contact me at any time. And we will be having another session next Thursday and the Thursday after that, because sometimes people like to come again to see another one, just to hear what other questions people have. Thank you very much, everyone.
Have a good one.